Hey everyone, it's Zahava. Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we are going to be looking at 15 books that I have kept aside from my eBay book stock haul that I do every 4 or 5 weeks to stock up for my eBay store, where I resell some rarer books that are not generally popular fiction. So I tend to go or gravitate more towards listing things that are worth listing, rare titles, etc. So basically, if you've been here before, you've probably followed me through this journey for quite some time. And you probably know also that these books, I'm getting a very good rate on them. I've said it before, I'm paying about 20 cents per book, which is great. But also, before I started booktubing and booktube, I was getting rid of a lot of these books actually because they didn't have really great resale value. I didn't want to start stocking individual novels by umpteen different writers, and I was very often finding myself donating a lot of the books to the thrift store. But now that I'm doing booktube and now that I am looking for books to read, I'm actually realizing how lucky I am, because a lot of the books that are in popular culture right now are being given to me for 20 cents. So you can't really go wrong. So what I've been doing with that is I've been sort of triaging those books. If I know that they're not going to bring any value online and that they're not really suited to blind book dates, or they're not something that I can see myself wrapping up and selling as a blind book date, or if I just generally want to read it, I have pulled those books out, and that is what I'm here to show you today. So sometimes the books that I get are in like kind of a bad a bad state. So I can't obviously resell these books, and I can't give them out as, or try and rehome them as blind book dates. So this is originally a book that I would, in its current state, be donating to the thrift store. But as it's me, and as it's me that wants to read it, or I may donate it to a free book library if I come across them. But I decided to keep this one aside because it seemed interesting to me and maybe I would like it. On an early morning in November, a private plane bound for Geneva drops off the radar, its wreckage uncovered days later in the Alps. Among the disappeared is Matthew Werner, an insider at Swiss United, a powerful offshore bank. His young widow Annabelle begins a desperate search for answers and quickly determines that Matthew's death was no accident. She soon finds herself in a terrifying cat and mouse chase, on the run from his powerful enemies who will stop at nothing to hide the truth. Meanwhile, ambitious society journalist Marina Tourneau has finally landed at the top. With her engagement to Grant Ellis, she's set to become one of the elite she has spent a career covering, but at the death of her mentor, she agrees to dig into one more story, Swiss United. In doing so, Marina uncovers information that implicates some of the most powerful men in the financial world, including a few who are too close to home. The story also could be the answer to Annabelle's heartbreaking search and save her life if Marina chooses to publish it. So I don't know if this is a standalone novel or if it is a debut novel or anything about that. I literally have no information about this book whatsoever, but it did look interesting to me. So if you've read it and you have comments about it, let me know if this was a good book that I pulled aside. I'm going to read it anyway, but I'm always curious to know what you guys think if you've read these books before. The next book that I pulled out of my big book haul is The Revenant. And I believe that this one was also made into a movie. So I feel like I've seen this title before, but more as a movie, never as a book. And apparently it's a revenge story, which I don't really know anything about. But because I know that it was made into a movie and that I could potentially watch this movie after reading the book, this is also something that I put aside or kept aside. Also, like, it's not in the greatest of condition. I don't know if you can see, but like, the cover is peeling a little bit. So again, this is not something that I would save to resell as a blind book date or try and put on my eBay store, because it really wouldn't have a good resale value. It would be a book that would be likely donated back to the thrift store. So being as I have a passing interest in picking it up and potentially seeing the movie, then I put it aside, basically. So if you guys are unfamiliar with what this is, the year is 1823, and the trappers of the Rocky Mountain Fur Company live a brutal frontier life. Hugh Glass is among the company's finest men, an experienced frontiersman and an expert tracker. But when a scouting mission puts him face to face with a grizzly bear, he is viciously mauled and not expected to survive. 2 company men are dispatched to stay behind and tend to Glass before he dies. When the men rob and abandon him instead, Glass is driven to survive by one desire: revenge. With shocking grit and determination, Glass sets out, crawling at first, across hundreds of miles of uncharted American frontier. Based on a true story, The Revenant is a remarkable tale of obsession, the human will stretched to its limits, and the lengths that one man will go to for retribution. So it sounds like it could be a really interesting read. If I like it, for sure I'm going to watch the movie. But yeah, The Revenant, something that I pulled aside from my haul. Now, I am more or less familiar with Lisa Gardner because a lot of the books that I've seen before with her name on them came in mass market paperback format. And as you know, it's something that I used to read, but I don't really read them anymore. I'd rather read trade paperback in case I ever want to annotate it. So because this one is truly in trade paperback format, and I believe it is a mystery suspense thriller, if I'm not mistaken, I decided to just pull this one aside basically because of the format of it. I have quite a few of her books in mass market paperback format currently listed for sale on Facebook Marketplace in a big lot that I have of mystery, thriller, suspense, romance, basically an entire 61 books that are mass market paperback that no one has jumped on yet, but they're up for sale. So at least currently while I'm recording this video, but because I'm unfamiliar with her work and because it doesn't seem to be part of a series, I thought that I would give this one a try. So the back of the book says, a man is dead, shot 3 times in his home office, but his computer has been shot 12 times. That's a little strange. And when the cops show up, his pregnant wife is holding the gun. So I can understand that you shoot somebody, but why would you shoot a computer? That's a little weird. Okay, Detective D.D. Warren arrives on the scene and recognizes the woman, Evie Carter, from a case years back. Evie's father was killed in a shooting that was ruled an accident, but for Dee, 2 coincidental murders is too many. I agree. Flora Dane sees the news of Conrad Carter's murder and immediately knows his face. She remembers a night when she herself was the victim and her captor knew this man. Now she's determined to learn the truth about Conrad's death. But Dee and Flora are about to discover that in this case, the truth is a devilishly elusive thing. Okay. I'm intrigued. I don't generally read mystery, suspense, thriller. The one, I don't know if you guys remember seeing this a few videos back, but, and actually, I don't know when you guys are going to see this video because the reason I'm actually recording it right now, today is Halloween. Today is Halloween. It's October 31st. And the reason that I'm recording this video now is because when I go away over Christmas, I'm going to be away for 3 weeks seeing my sister. I want you guys to have something to watch. So I may schedule this in order, or I may have this video playing for you guys to watch something while I'm away and I'm not going to be able to be uploading at that time. So you guys will see this video. I'm not really sure when it's going to be, but still the haul is valid. I'm going to have these books, all of these books, everything here, these 15 books are going to be on my TBR. So we will definitely get back to how I feel about these books at a later date. So Never Tell by Lisa Gardner. The next book that I have here is called Before I Wake, Robert J. Wiersma. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. If I'm not, I'm sorry. So Before I Wake. So tragedy strikes the Barrett family when 3-year-old Sherry falls into a coma after a hit-and-run accident. Her devastated parents, Simon and Karen, wait by her bedside hoping for a miracle, one that doesn't come. Told that she will never recover, they agree to remove her from life support. Oh. And then the miracle occurs. Sherry doesn't die, but neither does she wake. So Wiersma, again, I don't know how to pronounce this author's last name, brilliantly weaves together disparate voices and sheds light on the inner lives of characters struggling against tragedy, finding each other and themselves in the darkness. In exploring how hope can be renewed in the face of unimaginable sorrow, Before I Wake reveals the power of forgiveness and the true nature and cost of miracles. So again, I don't know what the Goodreads rating on these books are, by the way. I didn't check. I may or may not put them in the video. I'll see how I feel when I'm editing. Probably you'll get the Goodreads ratings of them if I know myself. I can't help myself. I have this sickness. I have to look at the Goodreads ratings for everything. But anyway, I have these books and I'm not sure what the rating is at the time that I'm recording it, but it definitely seems to have some good reviews. And like I said, I don't know this author, but I'm trying it out because at the end of the day, it cost me 20 cents. If I don't like it, I will DNF it. You know, I was going to give it to the thrift store probably anyway. The next book I have here, this one is a hardcover. It is by Judy Fong Bates, called The Year of Finding Memory. It is actually a memoir. So I didn't only keep fiction novels from this book haul. I did put aside some nonfiction ones as well, this being one of them, because I do read, as I've said before on this channel, I do read nonfiction and I gravitate towards nonfiction. It's like, you don't really have to force me to read nonfiction. I really like biography. I really like memoir. So this is going to be one of them. The things you do have to force me to read, we're actually going to do in another video. And those are more like classics. Like you feel like you should be reading them because everyone is reading them and it makes you like a good reader to read these things. But anyway, that's a topic for another video, which we're going to record directly after this one. So if you see the same outfit, it's because I'm serially recording videos right now for you guys because the setup and I have the time and everything. But basically, yeah, The Year of Finding Memory is a memoir. I'll just give you like a little bit of the blurb. So Judy Fong Bates came to Canada as a wide-eyed little girl in the 1950s. Her father was a dispirited Chinese hand launderer, eking out a living on the social periphery of several small towns. Her mother, a sharp-tongued woman who spent her life resenting their lowly existence a world away from home. Long after their deaths, Fong Bates, who grew up feeling Canadian to the marrow in her bones, returns to China with two older half-brothers for a family reunion and to pay her respects at her parents' ancestral villages. She expects little but to tag along with her Canadian husband like a pair of tourists, both to this distant country and to the remnants of a family she barely remembers. Instead, what she learns changes everything she thinks she knows about her parents and her family and herself. That in a world this big, and in memories that stretch across lifetimes, one's country's victims can be another country's heroes. A beautiful account of a mystery that unfolds over a year between trips through the lush back roads, hidden villages, and bustling cities of southern China's 4 countries. The Year of Finding Memory is a writer's act of love, as she comes to understand a depth of sacrifice and tragedy she could never have imagined, and a courage that outlives even the hearts from which it descends. Fong Bates reveals a story that will resonate across cultures and memories her readers will never forget. So, like I said, I am no stranger to reading nonfiction. I enjoy it. Normally, if I was going to do a biography or a memoir, it would be something that I would seek out on Audible. But again, I would have to spend a credit on that. And this cost me 20 cents. If I don't love it, if I find that it's putting me to sleep, I will DNF it. No sweat. You know, I'm giving it a chance, but I don't know if I'm going to keep reading it. We'll see. Because I find reading nonfiction, like in book format, can be testing my patience a little bit. I prefer to listen to it orally on Audible. The next thing I have here is I Took You to Keep You Safe. Okay, so it's like I took, but that's not actually part of the title. The title is To Keep You Safe. But I Took You to Keep You Safe. This is by Kate Bradley. How far would you go to save a child who isn't yours? They're coming for her. You don't know who they are. You don't know why they want her, but she's in your care and she's vulnerable. When a gang comes for Destiny, one of her pupils, teacher Jenny Wales, does the only thing she can think of to keep her safe. She takes her, but her decision could cost her everything. So this, I guess, is a fast-paced thriller. Looks interesting. I'm going to try it. Again, 20 cents. You know, either it'll be a great ride or it'll suck. I don't know. I will let you guys probably know what the Goodreads on this is, if it's even like rated, which I've never heard of this book, so I don't know if it's rated or not. So the next one here is A Train in Winter. It is like a Holocaust biography, historical women's studies type book. So definitely nonfiction based on the real lives of real women during World War II. Again, this is not a fiction novel, and you guys already know how I feel about World War II and Holocaust era books. Hopefully by the time you guys see this video, I will have read a couple if I haven't put them off due to fear of like hurting my heart. But I think it's really important to talk about the Holocaust, talk about these women who were integral in, you know, surviving and helping and who lived through it. I mean, it's just like, it's an important topic. We have to talk about it, even if Zahava is avoiding at all costs reading about it, which is very likely to happen, if I'm honest. But the reason I kept this book aside from the topic and the fact that it is nonfiction, is also because it's a wee bit water damaged. So because it is water damaged, again, I would not give this away or I keep saying give it away, but I would not sell it as a blind book date. I would otherwise have given it away to the thrift store, but I figure because it's nonfiction and I am trying to keep aside some nonfiction books because I love to read a nonfiction book. Let's say, I don't want to say once every month because that's a little ambitious even for me, but I would say like, every couple of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I don't know, every time the mood strikes and I'm done with reading a series of fiction books, I'd like to pick up a nonfiction. And also I like to read them in tandem with the fiction books that I'm reading, because very often, and it's not abnormal for me, and let me know if you guys are the same way, but I will have 4 or more books circulating at all times. It really just depends on my mood. Obviously, I'm not reading them all. I mean, I am reading them all at once, but sometimes I will have a book started. Like, for example, at the time that I'm recording, I still haven't finished Rabbits. So I'm not saying that I'm going to DNF it, but I definitely have it put aside. It's shelved for now on my, started books that I'm in progress, but it could be in progress for months, like I don't know how long it's going to take. I do intend to finish the book, but I have so many books on my TBR that I just really don't know if I'm going to actually get to it or not. So I do have this one again because nonfiction, and it just looks like, a really interesting, it's a really interesting subject. So I just want to read it. So here it is. The next thing I have, I don't know if I kept this aside because I'm feeling a little bit pretentious. I think so. I think that that's the reason I have this book right now. So this is Dream Psychology by Sigmund Freud. Now, never read Freud before. I wonder if I kept it aside so I can say that I have. So there's not really much to say. It's not a long book. It is maybe 200 pages or so. It seems to be in a pretty accessible format. I'm just hoping that when I read it, I will find it interesting and that it will not put me to sleep. But I think I kept it aside because the book itself is in good condition. But again, if I wanted to, I could probably blind book date this, but I feel like the person that receives it may be a little disappointed. So I've kept it aside, but I may have to unhaul this without reading it in the future. So I'm reserving myself the right to do that. So I also think that the reason that I kept that Sigmund Freud book is because this one here, which is actually an ex-library book from the City of Mont-Royal Library, is called Dreamland: Adventures in the Strange Science of Sleep. So again, a nonfiction book with a scientific twist about sleep and dreaming. And, it just the subject is actually fascinating. So I'm curious to see what this book has to deliver. And again, it is nonfiction, it's scientific, so it checks that box. The next book that I have here is the Qilin Purse, a collection of ancient Chinese stories. It's a really short book. And I think, obviously it is an anthology. I don't know if it's made for kids or not. It doesn't really say, but I kind of feel like it might be a kid's book. Yeah, it looks like it might be. I'm just looking at the back right now, and it looks like it might be a book for kids, but that's totally fine. In turns funny, poignant, and wise, these 9 lively stories are peopled with an array of unusual characters, including a young woman raised as a boy who's then faced with the complicated business of marriage, a carpfish spirit who changes herself into a young woman for love's sake, a miracle doctor who can cure all illnesses except one, and a shopkeeper who learns the hard way the true meaning of justice. So I don't know. Does that sound interesting to you? Because it sounds interesting to me, and I love a short and easy read, so I kept this one aside as well. This is the first science fiction one that I've kept aside from my Gatineau haul of eBay books, but I'm keeping most of them, right? But again, as I've said before in this video, if I wasn't keeping these, they would be going to the thrift store because I doubt very much if there's any resale value in any of these. They're not worth listing on eBay. And as I'm not selling books on Whatnot, I'm sort of stuck with them, but I'm not stuck with them. I'm sort of as I'm not selling the books on Whatnot, I'm sort of profiting from having them at such a cheap price. You know what I'm saying? All right, Armada. Zach Lightman has never much cared for reality. He vastly prefers the countless science fiction movies, books, and video games he spent his life consuming. And too often he catches himself wishing that some fantastic, impossible, world-altering event could arrive to whisk him off on a grand spacefaring adventure. So when he sees the flying saucer, he's sure his years of escapism have finally tipped over into psychosis. Especially because the alien ship he's staring at is straight out of his favorite video game, a flight simulator called Armada, in which gamers just happen to be protecting the Earth from alien invaders. As impossible as it seems, what Zach's seeing is all too real, and it's just the first in a blur of revelations that will force him to question everything he thought he knew about Earth's history, its future, even his own life, and to play the hero for real with humanity's fate in the balance. But even through the terror and exhilaration, he can't help thinking, doesn't something about this scenario feel a little bit like, well, fiction? At once reinventing and paying homage to science fiction classics as only Ernest Cline can, Armada is a rollicking, surprising thriller, a coming-of-age adventure, and an alien invasion tale like nothing you've ever read before. So it looks really interesting. Now, I'm not a huge reader of sci-fi, but I don't shun it either. So I'm very open to sci-fi. I've read some nice ones when I've been lucky enough to stumble upon some good ones. Again, we are not talking about rabbits, okay? But I've read, like, if you guys really like good sci-fi, I really, really enjoyed, and it's a rare copy. It's like hard to find a copy of this book, and I've never talked about it before on the channel, but it's a good segue to talk about it now. If you guys have ever read Amy Thompson, she has this one called Storyteller that I just, I fell in love with. I do have it on my Goodreads, but Storyteller by Amy Thompson, like for me, it was like a 5-star read. I hope that I rated it. I'm gonna have to go check my my Goodreads to double check. I'm pretty sure I gave that one a 5-star read. It was fantastic. I loved it. I was moved. I was, shocked. I was crying. I had all the feels in that one. So again, if you guys can get your hands on a copy of Storyteller by Amy Thompson, go ahead and do that. I'm almost sad that I got rid of that book. There was a used bookstore, oh my God, like years and years ago when I was in school across the street from where I was going to school while I was finishing up my bachelor's degree. And they had the book like on a table. I think I paid maybe $2 for it, but it was one of like the best reads of my life. So again, Storyteller, Amy Thompson, if you can find it, pick it up. I just loved it. I think it was my first official sci-fi book, but it was so moving. It made such an impression on me. So I'm excited to read Armada because, I'm chasing the high. The next book that I have here is called Thwarting Enemies at Home and Abroad, How to Be a Counterintelligence Officer. So again, a nonfiction book. There's quite a few nonfiction in this haul, which I'm really happy about. I'm not really sure like how it's going to read. I don't know if it's like a how-to book or if it just gives you like general I don't know if it's meant to be serious or it's meant to be like a conceit, but originally published in 1987, Thwarting Enemies at Home and Abroad is a unique premiere that teaches the principles, strategy, and tradecraft of counterintelligence. As William R. Johnson explains, CI is the art of actively protecting secrets, but also aggressively thwarting, penetrating, and deceiving hostile intelligence organizations to neutralize or even manipulate their operations. I think that, so it says about William R. Johnson here that he worked as U.S. Army intelligence in World War II. He went on to serve in various positions around the world with CIA, including the head of the agency's Far East counterintelligence operations and Saigon-based chief until his retirement in 1977, when he and his wife Pat returned to Colorado, and then he died in 2005. So again, if you guys have read this, let me know what you think about it. Sometimes I feel like the books that I get in these hauls are super rare and really obscure. So I don't even know if anybody else has ever read these before. And so if you have, I'm curious to know what you think. Again, it is one of the nonfiction books that I am excited to pick up. Okay, so this book here, A Complicated Kindness, I feel has been on the radar for quite a few years. I'm not exactly sure what year it came out. I know that it is a bestseller. It's been on a lot of reading lists. I think I'm keeping it aside. I know nothing about it. I don't know anything about it. I don't know anything about the author. I just know that it came across in one of my hauls and I've seen it on many lists, and I figure I'm just gonna try it just to say that I did. I feel like it's maybe a little bit religious, has to do with Mennonites as far as I can tell, but other than that, Don't know anything about it, and I just picked it up, quite honestly, because it was a title that I recognized, and I said, what the heck? That's all I really know. Okay, guys, I think that this one may be a YA novel. I'm looking at it now. It's called Girl in Pieces, a novel by Kathleen Glasgow. And I feel like this is probably something that I would not have picked up in the bookstore, because I actually don't even walk into the YA section when I'm in the bookstore. But because it came in one of my boxes, I figure I will just pull it aside. It's a novel, it's in the right format. If I wanted, and by that I mean like it's the right size, that if I wanted to annotate it, I could. But if you've been here a minute, you guys will know that I'm not much into the YA genre. So I'm just going to read you the back of the book. It says, "You can spot the girls who have it easy, and then there's me." Charlotte Davis is in pieces at 17. Okay, so yes, confirmation, YA novel. What am I doing, guys? Charlotte Davis is in pieces. At 17, she's already lost more than more people do in a lifetime, but she's learned how to forget. The broken glass washes away the sorrow until there's nothing but calm. You don't have to think about your father and the river, your best friend who's gone forever, or your mother who has nothing left to give you. Every new scar hardens Charlie's heart just a little more, yet it still hurts so much. It hurts enough not to care anymore, which is something that has to happen before you can find your way back from the edge. So this is sounding potentially like the girl cuts herself. That's what I'm getting. I don't know if I'm right or wrong. I haven't even opened this book. Just by reading the back, kind of sounds like potentially she's not dealing very well with the stress in her life. And if that is what this book is about, I have to say, I may find it interesting. So I will definitely give this one a shot. Like I said, I don't know anything about it. It's just like something I'm deducing from the back of the book by what's being said. If you guys know or have read this, let me know if I'm right. Just without spoiling the plot or anything, let me know if I'm right, if I'm onto something or not, because I'm going to give this one a shot. I mean, it's not to say that all YA is like boring or whatever. There's certainly some that I'm sure have a lot to offer, but I think that my prejudice, I think that the reason that I kind of stay away from YA novels is because they're so overhyped and they're so overdone, and I'm so over Divergent, Allegiance, Harry Potter. And I know I'm going to get some hate, when I say these things, but like, it's fine. When Harry Potter came out, I enjoyed the movies, but I can't get past like Chamber of Secrets. They lose me after that. I just think I'm too old. And when Harry Potter came out and it was in its like popularity and its heyday, it's nothing against the books, but I just think like I was too old. I was 19 years old. Like I did not want to read that. I didn't grow up with Harry Potter. It's just like, I appreciate it for what it is. But anyway, all of this is to say YA novels, there's flooding the market. And I just don't resonate. Like, I'm just too old for it. I'm too old. Like, my brain wants something else. And I'm not really interested in books like Hunger Games and things like that, where there's like a action-driven plot and it's coming of age and things like that, unless it's like a deep character study, which I'm thinking The Girl in Pieces may be. So I just want to parenthesize that and also say that I did read Go Ask Alice, which I remember enjoying. So there's certain, I guess, YA books that I would read, as long as I know that I'm doing a deep character study and that it's not just sort of like a fluffy, dystopian sort of like, I don't want to say shallowly written, but oh my God, I'm sticking my foot in my mouth. I'm saying a lot of really triggering things here to you all, but basically there's just certain types of books that I don't like, and without completely closing myself off to the young adult genre, let's just say I'm really picky. I'm really picky with it. So I will let you guys know once I get into this book what I think of it, and then you can make some recommendations after the fact. But just know I'm really not looking forward to reading young adult novels. It is a challenge for me, but it's one that we can sort of explore together. Okay. And the last book that I have here is This Is How You Die. So I don't know if you guys have found this book or come across it or whatever, but essentially what I read from the back of the book is that basically if you had a chance to like have your blood tested and know how you were going to die, like your genes could tell you how it was that you were going to die, would you want to know? would you want to know? And this book is kind of a biggie. It's almost 500 pages. It is like at least more than 450 pages. So it is kind of a chunker. So I'll just read you the back like really quickly. If a machine could predict how you die, would you want to know? Presenting the brilliant follow-up anthology to the best-selling phenomenon, Machine of Death. Now, I haven't read Machine of Death. I don't know if you have to. It's a follow-up anthology. I don't know if I'll have to do some more research on this because I don't know if you have to read the first book in order to read this one, but this one is an anthology, so it's like a bunch of short stories. There's like different formatting. Some of it is like really looks like kids writing. Some of it is more adult and things like that. So I think it's really interesting. I didn't realize it was an anthology, but it says stories of the inscrutable, infallible, inescapable machine of death. It says the machine started popping up around the world. The offer was tempting. With a simple blood test, anyone could know how he or she would die. But the machines didn't give dates or specific circumstances, just a single word or phrase. Drowned, cancer, old age, choked on a handful of popcorn. And though these predictions were always accurate, they were also frustratingly vague. Old age, as it turns out, could mean either dying of natural causes or being shot by an elderly, bedridden man in a botched home invasion. The machines held on to that old world sense of irony about death. You can know how it's going to happen, but you'll still be surprised when it does. This fascinating anthology, sinister, witty, and existential, collects the best of the thousands of story submissions the editors have received in the wake of the success of the first volume and exceeds that book in every way. So this, I guess, is a book too. I'm going to do some research. I'm going to find out if you need to read the first one in order to enjoy this one. My guess is probably you don't, but I think I'm really gonna like this one. Like, honestly, the subject is really intriguing to me. I love the twist on things. I love that things are not so black and white and there's room for interpretation. So I'm excited to get back to you guys on what this one is going to look like. And yeah, that's it. So that is my pile of the 15 books that I reserved from my eBay Ottawa book haul. So if you guys are new to the channel, you may not know, but if you've been here before, you will have seen me sometimes unhauling those books or sorting those books on camera, which I'm not going to necessarily be doing anymore, but there are some books that I am going to keep aside as opposed to just donating right off the bat, and these are 15 of them. So I hope that you guys enjoyed hanging out with me today. Please let me know in the comments if you have read or seen or heard of any of the books that I have reserved, and if you think I'm going to like them or not. I'm curious to know what you guys think. And as always, if you have stayed until the end of the video, you know that you're my absolute favorite. Please take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel to see more content like this, and I will see you again in the next one. Ciao for now.